Hey, it's Chris Herbert, and it's Monday, March the 10th, 2025, and welcome to my Monday morning podcast. This is week 2 of this experiment. I said in last week's podcast that I'm doing a 90-day experiment and totally ripping off Bill Burr's Monday morning podcast that he's been doing for eons. And if you haven't had a chance to listen to the last week's podcast, Bill's podcast, he's been doing this for many years, and it's something that I really enjoy listening to because it's very interesting getting inside of his mind and learning about the way he thinks and how he sometimes uses his podcasts, or at least you get a sense of how he develops his comedic material based on his observations in society and that sort of thing. So to some degree, these podcasts are going to be me providing my observations, not through a comedic lens, but through an entrepreneurial lens, because that's kind of what makes me tick. I might talk about other things that sort of interest me in my life, and hopefully yours. So last week, as I said, the first podcast, and right now we're at a whopping 17 views from last week's, which kind of makes me, question, how do these YouTubers, even get up to 1,000 views? And what does it take to have a YouTube channel that is generating, views in the thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, millions, per video? And I'm an entrepreneur with experience in marketing, so it's certainly something that I'd like to understand how that happens, without having to spend an enormous amount of time, effort in producing content on YouTube, etc. So, those who are active on social media looking for the magic elixir, let's say, of hundreds, thousands of likes, hundreds, thousands of comments and shares, etc. I've not cracked that code, that's for sure, and I don't know that anybody really has a definitive answer on how to crack that code. It sure isn't number of followers, that's for sure. And if you talk to people who are on LinkedIn who profess to be experts, you'll hear various tactics that you need to employ, which is, post often. Sometimes they'll tell you the types of formats you should use in terms of, the ideal post, that sort of thing. And sometimes, maybe that won't apply to another platform. So whether it's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, X, Twitter, I could go on and on. As an entrepreneur, you only have so much you only have so much time, you only have so much money, and what you really want is you want to be able to productively use these channels, whether it be YouTube channels or social media channels such as Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, etc., to get your message out, to get your offer out there, to convert that offer on social media into business. So what I tend to do, for what it's worth, is I like to experiment. But the most important thing really is, how much traffic are any of these channels generating to your website and converting into customers. That's the first thing. The second thing that is really important, and that we do for Facebook in particular, is we do advertise on Facebook. Facebook's a really inexpensive way to advertise content, right? So for us, we advertise content to a defined audience, and these are people that live and work in Grey Bruce. So we're able to fine tune our ad campaign around the audience that we want to reach. And we have to make sure that the content is relevant to them. So what we promote is our Grey Bruce News, which is basically a listicle, which is just basically providing summaries of news that's important and relevant to Grey Bruce citizens. And why Facebook? Well, Facebook's very cheap to advertise. It costs us maybe $25 to $35 a month Canadian to generate, a couple thousand visits to our site every month, and get the word out. So people will start thinking MI6. That's the name of our agency. They'll relate to Grey Bruce, potentially. And over time, people will sort of think, when they think about Grey Bruce, they might think about MI6 as a content creator, as a potential marketing firm, as a venture and an entrepreneur accelerator, that sort of thing. That's a long-term activity. But it all boils down to, when you're making this content, whether it's me, blabbing on here on my Monday morning podcast, or whether it's us producing content on our website, etc., it has to result in something of value. So on that note, value is an interesting thing that I want to talk about quickly, because there are three different types of value, which I think is important for people to think about at any point in time, whether they're developing a relationship with friends and family, with customers, with strangers, with prospective partners, whether it be, a partner in a relationship, whether it's personal or business, that sort of thing. So, yeah, I'm going to try to keep these podcasts light. So I won't go too deep into some of these, nerdy, heady stuff. But value is, critical in anything that you think about, that you do in your life, right? Like, what type of value am I getting for my time? Is there any form of economic value that I'm getting in this conversation with a prospective customer? But the way that I break it down is into three core buckets. So one is obviously economic, and you're always thinking, especially from a business context, what type of economic value you're going to get out of an exchange, whether you're providing that economic value in the form of a payment to somebody, or whether they're paying you. Always an important part in terms of value exchange, right? The other one is social, which is basically, it's more about building your network of contacts. So, or your network of friends. This is something to think about when you're having conversations with people, is, the social value that you can glean from a relationship with somebody, right? Do they know anybody that has common interests? Do they know anybody that's a prospective customer? Do they know anybody who is knowledgeable about something you're not knowledgeable about? That sort of thing. So the core, I guess, output of a social exchange is, with somebody, is whether you're going to build your network or help them build theirs. And a list of customers is part of your network. I don't know if you can hear that whining, but that's my dog in the background here. She likes to hear my voice, but she sometimes thinks that means that I'm going to give her attention. So there's economic, social, and then there's what's called cultural value. And that's all around either, it's around knowledge. It's around experience and expertise, whether you have it or you can gain it, from some sort of exchange with with people, with an organization, is whether you can build your competence. So cultural is really geared around, knowledge, understanding, insights, that sort of thing. So whenever you have a conversation with somebody, especially from a business perspective, and you're kind of not thinking whether it's worthwhile or not, use that lens. So is there an economic opportunity? Is there a social opportunity? Is there a cultural opportunity? Anyway, so I'm going to switch gears here, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what's happening with our friends south of us. We're obviously facing some interesting challenges with our friends in the U.S. and the administration. It's like I'm not sure how it's going to pan out, to be honest, because Trump is a very unpredictable person, and I guess the only thing that's predictable about him is that he's unpredictable. So the dark side of me says, I know I said I was going to keep these things light, and I'm not. Sorry. Spoken like a true Canadian. The dark side of the situation to me is that, he's never going to want to leave, right? He's going to figure out ways to engineer him staying in power, for as long as forever. If he passes on at some point in time, that somebody else in his family can take over. So that's the dark side of me, saying that this guy doesn't want to leave, and that's his end game. The other side of me is, I honestly don't understand how a guy like that, who really does not seem to be smart, has been able to achieve what he's been able to achieve with all this wreckage of unsuccess around him. I just don't understand it. It flies in the face of what I think should be the case, and I think that's kind of the common perception amongst people that aren't pro-Trump. Is this incredulousness about how it just shouldn't be able to happen. So I've been having my attempt at a sparring match with Elon Musk. Of course, this dude in Katy, Ontario, is not even a pimple on the elephant's butt, so to speak, when it comes to people like Elon Musk and Donald Trump. But I'm having fun anyway. I might leave a link to my post, my Twitter post, where I basically used Grok 3, which is his, quote, super smart, unquote, AI tool, where I've used it to basically confirm that he has depended not entirely, that's not fair. He has really benefited from government funding for virtually all of his businesses that he currently has, and the ones that have made him the most richest man in the world. So it's been kind of funny because I used Grok 3, to conduct deep research on how much funding he's received from the government, how much in rebates he's been able to get because of government policies on EVs, et cetera. So I believe he's a grifter. I don't believe that this guy really has the brains and is as smart as everybody, there's a lot of people, thinks he is. I think the smartest people out there generally, don't give a crap about their egos, are the ones that are doing all the hard work, I guess, and Musk is benefiting. But I don't know. Clearly, the way to the future is not these oligarchs. It's not where Trump wants to go, and hopefully, it's not what our new prime minister is thinking as well. I don't think he is. I think he's I think his perspective, if anything, needs to be, what makes an economy strong, what makes a country strong, is the people and the things that they're doing on a day-to-day basis to benefit society and benefit others. And it's the combination of all of them. It's not the results of a few, that are building, the next Facebook or the next Tesla or the next whatever. It's the tens of thousands of entrepreneurs that are, starting and running small businesses that are really the ones that build the backbone of the economy. It's not even the auto sector here in Canada. It's an important sector, don't get me wrong. It's all of the small businesses that support the auto sector. Now, do they depend on the auto sector? Obviously, but the broader context is that we have tens and tens and tens of thousands of entrepreneurs that, employ 5, 10, 100 people. They're the ones that are locally involved in their communities, that are members of the various business groups, that are contributing to hospital foundations, that are giving to local food banks. It's not the big companies. And even here in Grey Bruce, Bruce Power is a significant contributor to the community, and they're an important organization. But they're not the thing that's going to keep Grey Bruce going. It's the thousands of farmers, the thousands of entrepreneurs, and people that are thinking about becoming entrepreneurs. They're the ones that are going to make sure that this economy continues to thrive. Or if they don't have a climate in which they can start and thrive, then we're in a precarious situation. So that leads me to my last thing I think I'll talk about, unless I come up with something else that sparks in my head. I believe that starting in Grey Bruce, we need to look at rebuilding our economic ecosystems from the ground up. And so what does that mean? Well, it means that we've got hundreds and hundreds of, for example, people involved in the ag sector. So we have farmers that sell food direct to consumers. We have farmers that offer agricultural experiences to consumers. We have restaurants, who obviously serve the local community. And I'm not talking about franchise restaurants. I'm talking about, entrepreneurial-led restaurants. We have consumers that perhaps, if they knew that fresh food was available to them, and it was available to them, in a readily available fashion, maybe they would buy food direct from farmers, that sort of thing. So that's one component of it. But we also know that there's a systemic issue facing farmers, some farmers, not all, but some farmers, and that's the bottom line profitability of their land. It's harder. It's much harder for them to turn a profit, and there's something fundamentally wrong with that. How is it that the most important thing that we need, which is food, the people that produce it are having a hard time turning a profit, and in some cases, members of their family are actually turned off of farming because they don't see a future, so they go and work somewhere else. In some cases, to augment the family income. In other cases, because it's just they don't see farming as a career, so they go off to university and they don't take anything related to agriculture, They become another BCom graduate. We don't need more BComs, to be honest. We need more people who are going to continue to be who are going to be entrepreneurs and start their own businesses, that sort of thing. So what does that lead to a local, so if go back to my thoughts about building a local ecosystem from the ground up, we need to figure out a way in which the agricultural sector, is generating enough value for society and economically for the people that matter the most. And the people that matter the most are the farmers and their ability to turn a fair profit. So what would an economic ecosystem look like where that was happening? I don't have the answers, but I know there's problems. It's not just about, buying food from the farmer. It's understanding the challenges that they may be facing in terms of the profitability of their land, the pressures they're facing in terms of added cost for inputs, the debts that they have to incur to buy very expensive equipment. So I know that there is enough brains, know-how, and interest to fix this. But the biggest problem in Canada is, not having the right people in the room working together to solve a problem that is beyond what's in front of their eyes, right? So, if I want to eat healthy and I bitch and complain about the cost of locally produced food, I'm really not aware of why it has to be priced perhaps a little higher than if you get it at the local grocery store. So we need to work collectively. And people that typically have not interacted and worked together need to interact and work together. So those people that care about quality of soil, they care about the water table, they care about, that farmland is not being bought up by, private equity firms or by large corporations or ultra wealthy people, and reused for other things. That we work with these people, that we're all part of a collective that's focused in on the improved ecology of the land, both for ourselves and for wildlife and for other things and climate, and the profitability of the land. They can coexist, and they have to. And that's where municipalities come in terms of zoning, where farmers need to have tools that they can use to look at their land as an entrepreneurial venture and do things on it that are innovative and new, perhaps. And we need to work together on this. We can't work in silos. So look for something on that in the future in terms of Area 81, which is my Rural Entrepreneur Accelerator program. Yeah, I think that's good for today. It's been 23 minutes of me babbling on. So I hope you have a great week, and hope you enjoyed this podcast. And we'll talk to you next week.